Convene our Sabermetric panel once again this year. It's Vince Gennaro, Sarah Langs, and Mike Petriello. Catching has been weak, getting a little stronger, though, and we have a split at the top. We have two of us going with JT Realmuto, two of us going with Yasmani Grandal. Sarah, give us your top 10, and you are with JT Realmuto at number 1.
I am. For the second straight year, I have him number 1, and for the second straight year, I feel a little bit like the aberration there, but I just think he's such a great all-around player, especially as a catcher. I'm not sure how much longer he can really do that. I feel like we've had that conversation before on MLB Now about how much that athleticism really pans out when you get past 30, but I thought he was the number 1, but I don't know about clear number 1. Yasmani Grandal is also really good. He was my number 2. I had Salvador Perez number 3. I thought he had a really great bounce back year from injury this past year. Travis d'Arnaud at 4 felt kind of high, but once I got through that first 3, I wasn't really sure where to go from there. It felt like almost like a big tie at 6, and Travis d'Arnaud had the second highest hard hit rate in the majors this year, behind only Fernando Tatis Jr., and he had kind of the season that probably Mets fans had been waiting his entire Mets career for, and certainly what we began to see the beginnings of when he was with Tampa Bay after his very short stint with the Dodgers. So beyond that, speaking of the Dodgers, I had Will Smith number 5, and I fully expect him to be above 5 probably next year and certainly for years to come. Wilson Contreras at 6, James McCann at 7, Sean Murphy at 8, another who I definitely expect in that top 5 moving forward, Roberto Perez at 9, and Austin Nola at 10.
Okay, so I had JT Realmuto number 1, so did you. Yasmani Grandal number 1 for both of you. What about why Grandal over Realmuto?
Yeah, and again, to Sarah's point, I think it's very close. Grandal, to me, is more of an offensive force that's really driven by his 40 points higher in his on base. So he, to me, he has, as a player, he's actually got some similarities to Jorge Posada. Maybe not quite at that level, but he's very similar in style to Posada. Realmuto, on the other hand, a more balanced player, and I think an overall better defensive catcher, but not a framer, according to the stats. That's where Grandal beats him out, but not quite as potent at the plate. You can see the WRC plus for Grandal is 120 versus the 112 for Realmuto. So, overall, I had him very close, but I had to give the nod to Grandal at number 1 and Realmuto number 2.
How about you, Mike? You're Grandal. You go Grandal, Realmuto, and Will Smith at the very top.
Yeah, Grandal and Realmuto are essentially a tie for me. I went with Grandal for pretty much everything that Vince just said. If you look at over the last 2 years, the exact same amount of home runs, better framer for Grandal, and 40 points higher on base percentage. It's a tie, really, but I had to pick one, so that's what I went. And then 3, 4, I did go with those 2 young catchers. I went with Smith, and I went with Sean Murphy of the A's. And you look at Smith, and I think I'm just echoing you guys at this point. He crushes the ball. He's already an elite catcher, even though he's only got like 300 plate appearances. And then after that, it was kind of a jumble of guys. I really like Wilson Contreras. 5 years in the big leagues, 5 years above average hitter or better, and like a shocking improvement in defensive value over the last year or two. Then I'm buying into Austin Nola. I really am at number 6. Sal Perez, even though I'm not buying into what he just did. 3 walks and 150 plate appearances. I'm not so sure about that. Christian Vasquez, James McCann. And I'm also on board the Travis d'Arnaud train for all the reasons Sarah said as well. Number 2 in hard hit behind only Tatis. I don't care if it's a small sample. That's impressive.
See, I think you're all a little low on Will Smith. I'm the high man on Smith. I'm at number 2. And maybe it's recency bias where I'm seeing him consistently do great things through the playoffs. And again, it's an extended playoffs. It's not like a 2-day window or something like that. But there's not much hitting. Like the way Smith hit, it was like Garver the year before. It's like that guy is at top of the food chain hitter.
Yeah, I agree with you on all that. He's not a great defender right now. He hasn't been in the big leagues that long. Maybe it improves, but you look at Realmuto, he's a great defensive catcher. Grandal is the best framer in baseball. Smith isn't quite there yet, but again, it's only been 300 plate appearances. Let's see what he does this year.
And we know that Salvador Perez is not going to slug 600 next year, but it is Salvador Perez who can really man the position, right? Do all those catching things, and he also showed that he could hit. So, Sarah, you and I think, are much bigger on Perez, and you had him at number 3. So you're believing a little more in the offense?
Yeah, I'm not sure I believe it for the next 3 years, but certainly at least for 2021, what he did seemed, not sustainable to the extent of not walking at all and all of that. But I think overall, he'll have a good year. I think he's in a good environment there to have another solid season. And I think I had a handful of picks where maybe I put some guys a little bit too high just because it feels like it might be their last chance to be there. And I think that I might have him at number 3 as one of those examples.
Vince, you didn't have Salvador Perez Perez at all. Are you? Am I more buying into his reputation as a guy with great hands behind the plate? Does he not rate as well defensively as I think he may?
Well, you know, there's been back and forth on does he block balls in the dirt and how does he frame, and so we've seen a lot of controversy about that. There was times when, when Johnny Cueto was there and pitched that brief time for Kansas City, Salvi wasn't getting down low enough to frame for him and so forth. But beyond all that, I just don't see, I left Austin Nola off the list, so I couldn't have found a way for Salvi Perez. I've got a Perez, I've got Roberto, but not Salvi.
Okay, I'm just a bit surprised. James McCann, now the Mets believe, evidently I do, I have him at number 6. Sarah, you're big on McCann as well. You've got him at 7, but no McCann, pretty low for you two. Why, Mike?
Because I'm not sure what to make of him.
Yeah.
This is a guy who 2 years ago got designated for assignment by the Tigers, and the Tigers are not a very good team. And then he went to the White Sox, and he had that really good first half, and he wasn't very good in the second half in 19. So it seemed like a fluke. Was he good in 2020? Yes, he was. 111 plate appearances. So I'm not sure what to make of him. I think there's some evidence that he's improved in framing, just in the sense that it doesn't seem like he ever was taught how to do it until recently. I think he can be a solid catcher, but I'm not there for him as being an all-star yet. Now maybe he'll prove me wrong. There's just very little track record.
I have a question here, and I hate to get all baseball-y on you, but nobody has Yadier Molina. Once again, I'm not the Yadier Molina Hall of Fame and the all-time great and all that, but Yadier Molina can still catch. There's a lot, isn't there a lot? I'm told by everyone else that there's a lot to this catching position, and he's great at all of it except for the hitting part.
What is the name of this show?
Right now.
Right now. Exactly.
Now, all right, but here's my thing. You're going to go into hopefully a 6-month season, maybe it's a 5-month season, whatever it is coming up. You're saying you would take everybody in your top 10 in real life other than Yadier Molina.
As I think I've been saying on the show for 7 years, I'm totally on board with the idea that Yadi does things that cannot be quantified, that we cannot measure. Completely understood. It's 38 years old, right? The bat just isn't there anymore. What is the line for you? Is he 45 and he's still one of the top?
No. I think if the OPS plus is like 80 for a second straight year, and the last year is again a small season, and if I'm telling you, in the real world, if you're saying, Vince, all right, we're running a club.
Yeah.
We can get Travis d'Arnaud. We can get Yadier Molina. Who are you taking? For 1 year, 1 season.
Can you ask the same question about Buster Posey?
I didn't ask that question. Answer this question. No, actually, I wouldn't. Posey had an injury that really seems to derail his offense. Molina is just getting older and is not hitting. I'm saying real world 6-month season, just 1 season. I'm not doing a 3-year contract. d'Arnaud or Yadi, I'm going Yadier Molina.
I think it's close. I do think it's close. I didn't find his way in my top 10. But I don't think it's something that's crazy to have Molina there, and he's a borderline Hall of Fame candidate.
All right, because Roberto Perez doesn't hit. Sarah, you got him at number 9. Austin Nola, so you would take those guys over Yadier Molina in the real world. We're talking 1 season.
Yeah, I think that the tools that they have, again, right now, definitely are what you want on a team. Yadier Molina is a great player. I agree. He's going to have a great Hall of Fame case. We'll see what happens there, but I can't think of a 38-year-old catcher I would necessarily want. Take the name off of it at all.
Carlton Fisk. I'll take Carlton Fisk, age 38 season, and that's about it. I like being on this side of the Molina argument. I feel all gritty and gutty and baseball and everything else. Thank you, guys.